our shoulders open and relaxed. Rest our arms alongside of our body. Relax all the fingers and the toes. Smile. Smile gently to our own body, to the breath that is flowing in and flowing out of our body. Smile to our beloved brothers and sisters who are surrounding us. Smile to our teacher, to the stream of ancestors flowing in us in this present moment. Let us enjoy 3 sounds of the bell together as one body. Dear beloved Thầy, dear beloved family, this is a very happy moment. In the orientation, my sister said that every day we will receive at least 3 or 4 gifts. I hope that you have been experiencing that, receiving many gifts every day, and this morning was a great gift. It moved me so much to see over 300 people coming together to celebrate beautiful aspirations, to celebrate newborn lives going in a beautiful direction. In our OI group, one member shared that when she turned, I believe, 60 or 50, and she said she has done many things in her life, and now she asked herself, what does she want to do with the rest of her life? And she thought that to be on a spiritual journey would be her endeavor for the rest of her life. And so we see that when our brothers and sisters, however young or less young they are, when we give rise to those aspirations, it moves the whole Sangha, and it moves, the energy will go very far into the cosmos. So let us bloom flowers again for the 17 new OI members of our community, our international community. And now we will have another feast. And our elder sister, Sister Annabelle, Sister Chân Đức, in her Dharma talk, she also mentioned about Zen battles. Did you remember that? Yeah? Well, I don't know about my brothers, but Sister Angem and I, we've been in the organizing team, so we're pretty tired. But we'll do our best. And let us touch a deep space in our hearts where there are certain aspirations, certain concerns, certain questions that we want to voice. And we ask them as directly as possible, as succinct as possible, coming from that place. Children often ask their questions very succinctly, but very clearly. But when we grow older, we get muddled through the path. And then it's very difficult for us to touch that deep space inside us. But together we can do it. And so we will invite you to come up here, sitting along the side near the amplifier, so you can hear the answers actually. And then only one person will come up and sit on this chair, and then we'll listen to one sound of the bell to help everybody to come back to the breath, to relax and let go of everything, so that something real can manifest. Then the person will ask a question, and one of our 4 monastic brothers and sisters, we will answer that question. And then when we finish, the next person will come. We'll do our best to just answer one person, answer one question. And anything else I missed? That's enough? Okay, so let us come back to our breath. Those of you who would like to ask the questions, please walk mindfully towards the front. And just one person be on the chair. You can line up by the amplifier, speakerphone. And we may not be able to answer your questions. And in the end, we are the ones who will find out the answers through our own lives, through our own practice. But as a community together, the energy will help us to see the matter more clearly. Yes, dear child, would you like to ask your question first, Kang? Do you have a question? We are very happy to receive a question from a young person. Yes. Thank you. So please sit on your chair right there, Kang. Right. Okay. And turn a little bit towards the big family. And then let us enjoy one sound of the bell together. And then you pick up the microphone on the cushion, and then you ask your question. Okay?
When was this place built?
Since I'm from here, I will answer this question. This place was formally built in the beginning of 2010. But it was offered to our community many years before that. Would you like a longer answer, or is that good enough? It's good? Thank you. So it's 7 years old now. Thank you for being here with us, Ka. Thank you. I see that there's another young person. Would you like to come up? Okay, whenever you're ready, you come up, okay? An adult. If we have teenagers, we also encourage you to come up and ask your question.
dear sisters and brothers, dear Sangha. I was going to ask, when is retaliation and revenge appropriate in Buddhism, but I suspect the answer is very short. Okay. Sangha has been so important to me, and sometimes I feel forces that can pull apart the Sangha, primarily ego, but also a lack of structure and or guiding principles. Is there a set of guiding principles that you have found that keep Sangha together and thriving and growing?
Dear Sangha, dear friend, thank you for your question. At times I look at our community, the monastic community, and I ask myself a similar question. What is growth? And what helps us on this path? What's a hindrance? How much we are able to work with? I look at Thai, how Thai handles situation, and I feel like Thai always has the capacity to see behind the facade of the conflicts, the difficulties, the limits that we have. I look at my own practice, and I feel at times I'm not able to look that deep, and at times my personal difficulty, my personal suffering, they limit my wisdom in the moment. And I get stuck in judgment and thinking, oh, if this person did this, the person did that, if only things were different. I find what helps me is to come back to my root aspiration, that is to grow in love and compassion and understanding. And I find I can expand much more what I can embrace looking at it from that angle. There's times that I find alone I'm not able to reach that point, and that's when I rely on the community. That's when I know I need to ask for help. I think to have a vision of how the Sangha grows, being a monastic or a lay Sangha, it's helpful and useful. It can also become a hindrance. The Sangha grows as it grows. We'll see where it goes. But to keep working with what's at hand, that's the base for the practice. And that keeps my practice real and me in contact with what I still have to polish and work with. So I find that the common aspiration, rejoicing on the fact there is an aspiration in the first place in all of us, otherwise we wouldn't be here. And the common aspiration that we all share, it's a base for growth. And starting from there, we can see where to go. I wouldn't give a fixed recipe. Thank you for your practice.
Dear Thai, dear Sangha, dear brothers and sisters. The other day we heard about beginning anew for one-on-one, and our Sangha has read that there's a process for a group beginning anew, and could you please explain that?
Dear beloved Thai, dear beloved community, dear friend, I'll attempt to answer, but I also will invite one of my elders here to weigh in as well. We know that in the process of beginning anew, it's really a process of reconciliation and communication. And it can be done one-on-one, it can be done with a few people, it can be done in a family, in a business, sangha. And what is probably most helpful in a situation where there are many people, and I'm assuming maybe two groups or within one group, it's often helpful to invite an individual, one or two, who all members who will be present at the beginning anew have great faith and confidence and feel that they will be fairly heard, fairly listened to, and that these facilitators will listen deeply. They will perhaps even recommend a format for the beginning anew. It may be that since it's a large group, say more than a few, it may happen over the course of at least 2 days, so that some members of the group have a chance to really express themselves from the heart. And because it's Sangha, we know that it's safe. Even though we may be feeling vulnerable, we can trust in the security and the space that's being held for us to share what's deepest in our hearts. And that may be enough for the first day, that one group will speak and the other just listens. And then the next day, it's reversed, and those who have a different view have a chance to express what's most important to them, what they feel needs to be heard or listened to. And it could be at that time, or perhaps another time, that you all come together again to have a discussion, because now you've had a chance to listen to each other. And of course, this just doesn't happen in a vacuum. You come together for a day or half a day, and you have some sitting, and you have some walking meditation, perhaps eating meditation. We really make sure that we surround ourselves in the most familiar parts of the practice to help give us more strength and more capacity to listen. And doing, of course, the best we can to listen deeply, to listen to what's being heard or what's being said. And listen, sometimes we speak and we listen to another and we can hear what's not being heard. And of course, we listen as best we can without discrimination and judgment. And we listen not towards what's my response or rebuttal is going to be, but just listen to what is. And to be as open as we can. And then I think that you'll find that even if at that point there's no resolution, hopefully there is, but even at that point there's no resolution, for sure there's been some understanding. There's been some acceptance. There's been a realization, wow, this other view, which I couldn't be open to before, we have a lot in common. And suddenly then there's that place to start working towards a direction to go in.
Dear Sangha, I've been asking myself this question for a very long time. Why do I get angry at my brothers and sisters? Is it because I'm angry at myself, or am I angry at them? Because every time I think that I get angry at them or I hurt them, I start getting guilty and I start getting mad at myself, and that madness is attracting towards them. So I start getting mad at them.
Dear family, my dear child, you answer your own question already. You are the Zen master. Am I getting angry at my siblings, or am I getting angry at myself? And it's like that. Yeah, when we get really angry at somebody, a lot of time it's because they are our own reflection, our own frustration, what we want to be, but we're not able to, to be, to do. And then when we see that image in front of us, we get very disappointed or upset. So when you have that deep insight, wisdom already, then you come back to yourself and just come back to your breath. Breathing in, I'm aware that I'm angry right now at my brother. Breathing out, I smile to my brother inside of me. Breathing in, I see that my body is suffering from the heat of the anger, from the tension of the anger, from the suffocation of the anger. Breathing out, I relax. I send a lot of love and compassion to my brother inside of me, to myself. And you just come back to yourself and breathe, and you just send that love to your body, to your brother in you, to yourself, and that anger will be cooled off. Then you can talk to him. You can say, brother or sister, when you say those things, when you do those things, that trigger the seed of anger in me. That makes me suffer inside me. I talked to my 5-year-old niece. When I asked her, when you heard your daddy going to the hospital, where did you feel in your body? And she was only 5 years old. And I asked her that question. She pointed at her belly. She said, here. And I said, what did it feel like? She said, I feel sad and hungry. And I asked her, what else did you feel? She said, that's it. I just feel sad and hungry, but I didn't eat. Do you know that many adults, when they feel sad or angry, they actually mistake it for hunger? Yeah, or they mistake it for, people doing the wrong thing. They blame, or they eat a lot. They beat their own body. They do many painful things to their own body. But they don't know the root of it is the sadness and the anger. And the body bears all that sadness and anger. So for you to know, to come back to yourself and send love and to relax your body and mind, you are very compassionate. Then you look into the roots of your anger, you understand more, then you take better care of yourself, those your brothers and sisters, and your family and many people in society. So congratulations, God. Please, parents, bring this child to the monastery often, okay? We'll accept him when he's about 17. You can become a monk, okay? But right now you can already be a young monk in your heart. Thank you, God.
Dear Thai, dear community, dear sisters and brothers, could you talk about letting go? And specifically letting go of expectations and hurt from a beloved.
Can I ask a question? Is it does it refer to a specific relationship in your life? Any particular relationship? Thank you for sharing that, and thank you for asking this very important question. Okay, so the question is, how can he practice letting go of expectation and hurt in the case of that his wife is asked for a divorce unexpectedly, and he's found himself trying to re-establish the relationship to try to save the marriage, but he realized that she's already been gone for a long time. So by the way, when you can I ask, do you have children?
Yes, we have 2 children, a 14-year-old daughter and a 9-year-old son.
So I was I think 15 or 16 when I found out my parents wanted to get a divorce. And I remember sitting with my sister and both of us agreeing that in our case we felt at that time that it was a good thing because we wanted the arguing to stop. Because it's very unpleasant to listen to hateful speech and anger in the house, the only loving place that we know. And there's no easy answer. Because the suffering is very deep when a couple decides to separate, especially when they have children. I think I don't blame my parents, but I cannot not acknowledge that the decision to divorce affects me even till today. It affects who I am and the path I've taken. Maybe I wouldn't be a monk if my parents didn't divorce. That's very true. But emotions are very complex. I feel deeply that really letting go can be the best way to save a relationship. If I look honestly, I think my parents didn't really practice letting go, even though my mom asked for a divorce. And because they could not let go, especially of all the things that came with the marriage, because it's not just one thing, it's not just a contract between two people, but it's about children, it's about possessions, about a way of living. And in this day and age, for many families that don't live in a village, they don't live in an extended family, it is the whole world. For the children, it is pretty much the world that is coming asunder. So it's not easy to practice letting go. But our teacher teaches us that letting go is the foundation of love. That we can't have true love without letting go. So we have a song we like to sing, no coming, no going, no after, no before. I hold you close to me. I release you to be so free, because I am in you and you are in me. So in the letting go, there's the sudden realization that she is in you. When there's the holding on, sometimes we don't see that anymore, and the love is somehow stifled. We don't see that we are integrally also already part of one another. I sat with my father a month ago in Deer Park Monastery and asked him if he'd be willing to sit and have a family meeting with my mom and my sister. Because I realized we hadn't had a meeting in about 26 years. And it's not that they had not seen each other, but I'm talking about a family meeting, like sitting down like we did when I was young. And we needed to discuss something in the family, and the four of us sat down together. And I think that the distance and the time is a factor of letting go. I think that we don't know what will happen in the future. However she feels inside, a divorce is her way of expressing it right now, in the present moment. So I think all those emotions, those feelings, those positive feelings you have for her, that you associate with her, that feel like they're being ripped out of you, you need to let go of. You need to acknowledge them. They're really there. There's no question of them being there. And notice that they're not only her, just like they're not only you. When we practice not self, we know that our feelings are not me. Our perceptions are not me, not mine. They are not myself. And in the same way, they are not her. They are not hers. They are not herself. They're just feelings. And they manifest due to conditions. So, if you're able to come back to your breath, come back to your body, and generate joy, and smile, and say, a divorce is happening. That's the beginning. It means that, it doesn't mean that there won't be more feelings of sadness and hurt. But you accept and say, okay, I can't say that I fully understand or see the wisdom in what you've decided, but I trust. I trust that you are doing your best to look at what is important for you. And because I have deep love for you and deep love for our children, I want you to be true to what is most dear to you. I think if you are able to say those words to her, maybe not today, and maybe not next week, but you might find that there's a new opening. We don't know what will happen in the future. But I have a feeling that you already have the wisdom to know that it's in your letting go that this relationship can begin to grow anew. Because a divorce is not the end of a relationship. A divorce is just a legal proceeding. Actually, we've already been in relationship since beginningless time. It's just moving the pieces around on the board. What is important is what's going on inside. What's going on inside you? What's going on inside her? If you're able to let go, it opens the possibility that she can explore what she needs to explore. There's no guilt, no judgment, just the space. You're giving her one of the greatest gifts, which is space. Maybe that's all she needs. And no expectation. And when she realizes what you've given her, we don't know what will happen. Maybe she will discover something much vaster than what she thought was you. So I feel it's just a partial answer, but that's the best I can do. Yeah. So thank you for your very deep and important question.
Dear brothers and sisters, dear Sangha, after the white supremacy march in Charlottesville, my Sangha has been wondering about our response. And in Tennessee, where I live, there's been another White Lives Matter march that's cropped up. And my question is, do we as a Sangha have a place there? And if so, what is the best way for us to bring a presence of peace and understanding and not divisiveness or choosing sides?
Dear family, dear sister, many things move through me when I hear this question. And I feel like maybe there's a few things to address so that we can maybe deepen our understanding. I know that when the Black Lives Matter initiative came up, a lot of people didn't quite understand. They thought, oh, but all lives matter. And it's true. All lives matter. Black lives matter. Yellow lives matter. Red, brown, purple, green, and pink lives all matter. But at this particular point in time in history, in American history, in the culture of the militarization of our police forces, in fear, I would add one little word to Black Lives Matter to help in understanding. And that is that Black lives matter too. You see? This is what's being put forth. Not matter more or than any other life, but that Black lives matter too. And so do all the other lives that are represented right here in our Sangha. All the many folds and the many streams. But when it's presented sometimes to certain groups, a lot of fear comes up. Because, well, if your lives matter, then my life matters less? Or is there some part of my life that's going to be threatened? So let us recognize that there's a lot of fear there. And there are many ways for us to reach out and to address that. And one of them is the question that you asked about what is the Sangha's response? What does the Sangha do? And here we sit in Magnolia Grove in Batesville, Mississippi. Okay? And over there, there's a statue. And who's in that statue? Dr. King and Ty. Both of them my teachers, and I imagine yours too. And what did they preach? Beloved community, which our teacher has lovingly expressed through his whole life as a result of his meetings with Dr. King, and promised and committed when he died he would continue to grow the beloved community. And so here we sit. But they also talked about nonviolent, peaceful resistance and protest. And I think that's a little bit, could speak about that a little bit more and could practice in that way a little bit more. And we know from what happened in Charlottesville that it was quite dangerous because there was a lot of anger. And not to say that there shouldn't have been, but could it have been expressed in a different way? Could the resistance have been expressed? And I would say that the vein of teachings to which we all have access is one of the most powerful. When we go as a Sangha to sit in silent protest against those who fear, not against, with those who fear. There's a time I think now is a time for resistance, but it has to be wise resistance. And my understanding from these rallies that are coming up, that the police are actually separating the groups so that we don't have the type of violence that occurred in Charlottesville. And so we take our place. We sit mindfully, we lend our presence of love and understanding. And we add that to the stream of, I'm sure, many others will be there. And I'm reminded of a clip in the film, Walk With Me, when Fat Blue and many of the other wake-up monastics were sitting in quiet repose. And wasn't that powerful against our friend who was going on about Jesus and Buddha? Unspoken power. We could see. Well, where is there most likely to be reconciliation and coming together? The fire and brimstone, or sitting quietly? So do indeed go and sit. Be prepared. You know, I'm always reminded that our forefathers, like Al Lingo, who's here with us, and many of the other old civil rights warriors, they prepared themselves. They practiced. And it's very similar to what we do. Practice to be aware of what's inside. And for us to have an appropriate response. So when this happens, go with that practice and with that awareness. And sit solidly and steadily in the truth that you know to be in you, and the truth and the beauty that you know is in the other. And I think that I always feel that one of the greatest inheritances that we have from Thai is that, well, we are rebels. We are real revolutionaries in a different way. And for us to be Thai's continuation. And I'm sure if Thai could be there, he would lead a walking meditation, or perhaps around the spot allocated for the counter-protesters, as they call. So there are many different things that we can do, but we do it with wisdom. We do it with preparation. We do it with safety and security in mind. But we do it.
Dear sisters and brothers, dear community, dear Thai, I have two questions, but I'll ask one if there's time for a second. My first question I actually put in the bowl, but I decided I would come up and ask it instead. We are all a part of a broader human society, and that means we are all shaped by the societies in which we live, including racism, sexism, patriarchy, and homophobia and transphobia. How does the monastic community use the trainings and practices to deal explicitly and concretely with racism, sexism, patriarchy, and homophobia within the monastic community as an example for the broader Sangha?
Dear beloved Thai, dear family, thank you for your question, my dear sister. As you look at our panelists, you can see that the community always makes sure that we are well represented. We have two brothers and two sisters. We have Brother Huetuk, who is an Australian, Italian. I always speak French to him. Sorry. I always speak French to him, and he'll say, Sister D, speak Italian to me. I am an Italian. So, we have Brother Fablu, who is an American, Caucasian. We have Sister Anew. We have me. So we always make sure that we are well represented in terms of men, monks, and the women, the nuns, and also with our ethnicity. You can see that during the whole retreat, we take turn. The brothers share certain aspects of the practice. Sisters will take turn to share. So we're very aware of that. So that's one way we practice non-discrimination, by being aware and by empowering every aspect, element that exists in our community, acknowledging ourselves and empowering ourselves with our presence, with our contribution. We also have, many of our monastics are of Vietnamese origin. And then the rest of our monastics we call non-Vietnamese, because it's quite a mixed of brothers and sisters. Most of our brothers and sisters who come from the non-Buddhist tradition. So we also learn to live together and to learn about our own traditions and cultures. Somebody else was asking about the beginning anew in group, and we practice beginning anew every 2 weeks in our community. Brothers will sit together, will practice the 4 steps and of flowering the waters in individual brothers. We do that with the sisters. We water the flowers in our own sisters, in our own community. If we feel we have done something unskillful, we would also express that and express regrets, say we are sorry for that. So if in any way that we have said or done something unskillful, unintentionally, hopefully not intentionally, we also have a chance to share with one another in community, but also privately. We learn to do that. And most importantly, we learn to do beginning anew with ourselves, to see that yes, I think I said something like that because of my background. For example, I grew up in Vietnam, and I am Vietnamese Caucasian. My father was in the Vietnam War. He was a Vietnam soldier. So growing up, my brother looks a lot more white than me, and he was very much discriminated against as a white child. And I escaped some of that because I look more Asian. But then there were also children who were half black and half Vietnamese, and it was much more obvious. And they received a lot of teasing, a lot of unkind actions. And so in that way, when I came to this country, automatically I was afraid of black people, because I associated that if you are of a darker skin, you'll be discriminated against. But I also found that, I never felt that I was white, because I could never look white. So to many people, I just look exotic, different. So really, with the practice, I learned to see I'm neither Asian nor white, nor there's so many aspects about me. I'm not this or that, but I'm all of that. And it helps me to accept myself with a wide variety of the rainbow, and not trying to define myself in any way. So in our community, as we practice to live together in harmony, we also recognize ourselves in our monastic siblings and vice versa. And we learn to accept and love and respect one another from that foundation, from that basis, that to see ourselves, you are in me and I am in you. And so out of unskillfulness or out of habit energy or a certain thing in our background, sometimes we may have certain, statements like, oh, he's like that because he is, or she's like that because, but we also have awareness to shine light upon our bodily actions and speech, and to begin anew with ourselves and with one another. And we also use, you have the 5 mindfulness trainings as the guiding principles for the lay members, but we also have monastic precepts, 10 precepts for the novices and 250 for the monks, 340 something for the nuns. And so in that way, in our precepts, we really learn to take care of, to be aware of our thoughts, speech, and bodily actions, so that when there is discrimination, segregation, preferences arise, we become more and more aware of them. And with awareness, we always recognize that that is not right view, that is not right thinking, that is not right speech or right bodily action. And we, with time and with patience and with a lot of love and acceptance from our own community, we gradually transform them. But first of all, we have to acknowledge that the discrimination is inherent, is in with each one of us. And we have to acknowledge that and transform that slowly and with the help of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. So my second question is about the practice of disengagement. How can we respond if someone uses the practice of disengagement to not deal with the real issues of social injustice?
Dear friend, dear community, we often define our community as a engaged Buddhist community. I'm not sure I like the definition, to be honest. I feel like it kind of draws a line, oh, this is engaged Buddhism and some other is not engaged Buddhism. And if I think of what our teacher meant when he says engaged Buddhism, is not to compartmentalize the practice into something remote and far away from life or from society or from the problems at hand. And so stressing with the word engage in front of practice or Buddhism, it just means I cannot separate my practice from my impact in the society around me. So if I look honestly at my practice, I feel that at times it's time to sit and breathe and deal with my own inner reality. And at times it's time to act. And mostly for us, offer the practice in different ways. So maybe for you would be to fight for equal rights or social justice. Or I guess everybody has his own call. To ignore the voice, it means to shy away from practice. If I cut out pieces of the uncomfortable bits, then I'm starting to cut out the blind spots inside of myself. To practice means for me, to embrace me fully, to embrace life fully, to embrace what's come at hand fully, and to act in accordance, to do what's appropriate to the situation. If I say I'm a Buddhist monk, therefore I'll only sit in my room and not do what is necessary, for Thai was engaged in the process of peacemaking. For us could be whatever our time demands. Then I'm not really engaging with my practice. I'm taking a very convenient shortcut. But that goes against the very first principle that brought me here in the first place, that is to grow, to expand, to become free of my fear. What blocks my action is fear. What blocks my action is the concern to be exposed, to do the wrong thing, to be challenged, to show my shortcoming and vulnerabilities. And these are all points that I want to face. That's why we are here to practice. That's why we are here to learn to look at ourselves in an honest manner. I like to look at practice as a way to be as free as we can learn to be, and learn to recognize what are the obstacles that prevent me from being free right now. Pride, shyness, and to say, I see you and I don't want to be controlled by you. I see my fear and I want to find a skillful way to, yes, be there for myself and also do what I feel it's the appropriate action. So to separate the action and the practice is not the way forward. I find to find how do they relate. If I emphasize on action too much, I lose my center. If I withdraw too much, I also lose my center. Thank you.
Hello. Dear Thai, dear community, dear brothers and sisters, I am aware of being in neutral a lot of this time. And as I've been listening, I'm aware it's because of my attachments. When I first arrived, wonderful young brother Mindfulness remembered me and reminded me that Sister Patience is no longer here. I mean, she's here on earth, but she's not here. She said something to me that Thai says in every book and that you all say, and that is, Emily, you have more than enough conditions to be happy. And I heard it. I knew that Sister D would be very busy, so I haven't approached you. I was attached to the Obama administration. I was attached to a new worldview. And I'm very sad. I know the answer is not to wall myself off and become neutral. Obviously, I'm getting out of neutral. My question is, how can I stay out of neutral?
So dear Thai, dear sisters and brothers, Thai used to often teach us about the cinematographic nature of consciousness. You know, how we tend to create the world through our thinking. And it doesn't mean that it's not solid earth under my feet or that there's not the sun shining outside, but it means that our perceptions are not infallible, and more than we realize, we are actually filling in information about the world that we perceive, both inside ourselves and outside ourselves. That's a very interesting insight to have, because when you start to look into it, you realize that there are things that we believe to be certain that are not so certain. There are things we believe about ourselves, there are things we believe about the world, and that contributes to the nutriment of our thinking on a daily basis. So we think that it's certain, and that we can only be happy and live a fulfilled life if those things are true, like our marriage or the president that we like or the system of government that we like. And yet somehow on this planet, human beings have lived for most of history under dictatorships, violent dictatorships, where their voice was not heard, where there was not a chance for them to get a good job, or maybe even get enough food for their family to eat. And we don't delude ourselves into thinking they were happy. But when you see that you can get in the car and drive down to Walmart and buy just about any product you could imagine on the planet, well, there's not such bad conditions. Or when you see that, for example, the eyes that you have can see colors, like blue and the sun and the flowers and the birds and the other Sangha members around you, that's a big condition for happiness. Not everyone has those good conditions. So we are always painting our story about the world. I think if you try practicing with that realization for a while, you get a lot of insight. You start to see the nature, like how do the strokes come onto the canvas? When is it that through my thinking, I'm painting another stroke in my version of the world that I feel comfortable living in? And you start to stop painting. I think what I learned from my teacher is to stop painting the world in my daily life. When we talk about stopping and looking deeply. So I noticed that as long as I keep painting that world all the time, with my opinions, with my judgments, with my perfectly formulated, rational understanding of how things should be, the more I suffer, and the more I make other people suffer. Because usually once I've got that canvas perfectly painted, then I just want to go and impose it on everyone else, and even on myself, yeah, which actually creates a huge amount of suffering for myself. I want my own image of myself to match the painting I've been drawing. So I learned that to stop, to come back to my breath, to just be aware of this breath coming in and out, aware of my body, and to look deeply, not to draw another opinion or attach myself to another view of the world, but instead to first of all, to look at that happening. Like our brother shared beautifully yesterday about these 5 universal mental formations. It's very, very helpful. I encourage everyone to study those deeply, because when you start to see that mechanism happening very, very fast, every moment of your life, you understand where the nutriment comes from, where those strokes come from. It's not because there's some like CEO, some boss in your head that is making executive decisions. It's not like that. You look deeply and you see there's no boss. There's no CEO. It's hilarious. Here you are thinking all the time you're in control and you're the one doing this, I'm the one doing that, and I chose that, and it's all just what you've been painting. These strokes. And it's not you who's painting them. The painting is just going on. This is the insight the Buddha had into the nature of reality, that how we nourish our mind is what we then see as the world. So that's why we always in our retreats, we talk about the nature of nutriment. This morning we learned about the 4 kinds of nutriment in the 14 mindfulness trainings: edible food, sense impressions, volition, and consciousness. And I really encourage everyone to read the sutra on the 4 kinds of nutriments to better understand how those contribute to this painting of the world, how our volition, the sense impressions through our eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind are always contributing to our world, what we get attached to. And by letting go of that, stopping and just accepting the raw, visceral reality of what's going on right here, not getting attached to it, but just seeing what's going on right now, and right now, and right now. You see, you no longer are infatuated with the painting. You no longer are subjected to view the world through colored glasses. But you start to see things as they are. The Buddha had the wonderful phrase, yatha bhuta. It's things as they are. That is what we're here to do. And when you do that, then you don't suffer so much. Suffering becomes optional. You don't have to, you can grab onto that painting. You can put the glasses back on. sometimes I play with it. It's like, wow, yeah, if I feel one of my brothers or sisters has a very strong view about something, I say, well, maybe I'll take on that strong view just for fun, just for a while, and see what it looks like from their perspective. So, wow, oh my gosh, my Sangha looks totally different when I put on their glasses. And you start to see how views are always influencing our experience of the present moment. So this understanding, and I think, I'm sure my brother tomorrow will talk a little bit about right view, and how we, Tai would say that right view is the absence of all views. We no longer hold on to an opinion, because it's far more valuable to have awakened people who can see into the nature of reality than to have more people with more opinions. This is what we need in the world. Not to impose our views on others, but to help people to wake up to what's going on. Yeah? So we can live together as brothers and sisters on this planet. So this is the work, and we're all doing it together. We have a Sangha to support us. So I hope you continue to walk the path with us and enjoy your work. Enjoy your path. Thank you.
Dear community, this will be the last question for today. Thank you.
Dear Tai, dear brothers and sisters, dear noble community, in our local Sangha, part of our social work and community work, is to provide food for the hungry in our community. And one of the requests from the local shelter is that the sandwiches are made with meat and cheese. And last year we were able to provide hundreds of sandwiches in the community. But I would like to know how to resolve the conflict of non-vegetarian food for those that are hungry and in need in the community.
Dear family, maybe you all learn to cook really good non-vegetarian food. At least learn to make, the paste pate, what do you call it? Or the sandwiches that we make non-vegetarian that is really, really, really good. And then you can talk to the people in the other group, ask them to try, give it a try. And if the organizers agree upon, then whatever you serve, when the people receive, and they know that it's made of a lot of mindfulness, of love, of care, of good intention to take care of their health, and also to take care of Mother Earth, then they will eat it and will taste that love and that care and that healing. when you come to the monastery, you eat non-vegetarian, you eat vegetarian food, right? And you eat vegan food. And do you agree that you feel nourished? Yes, in an atmosphere, if we can create that is quiet, people have a chance to eat in silence, to give rise to gratitude for this food, for the love and care that have been put in that. People really enjoy and nourished not only in the body, but also in their mind. When we want something, we may become very strong in our views. And when we push our views on others, as my brother just said, people seem to repulse. Even if they know it's correct, they still react. They still try to push the idea out. I know I still do that, but I did that a lot more when I first became a nun. And one of my elder brothers, he said to me, Sister D, when you have a really strong view, just be quiet. He said something stronger, but I just say it lightly like that. And I really kept that in my mind and in my practice, to learn to feel when the body becomes very tense, the face becomes very hot, and my mind is rewinding and replaying the thoughts. That's when I learned to come back to the breath, relax the body, and stay as quiet and as spacious as I can. And when those emotions come down and I have more peace and clarity, and I do a little more research, more preparation, and I share my opinions, my suggestions with the understanding that I do my best to present a proposal to the Sangha or to an individual, but if that person is not ready or willing to receive that, it's also okay. An effort, a seed has already been planted, and with enough conditions, it will sprout, it will germinate. And when we do things like that, we have a lot more patience, we have more endurance, more stamina to go the long run. If we see something so correct and we want to get it done right away, but if we invest too much energy, especially if it's restless, it's out of anger and fear or desperation, we become worn out, and we give up the journey. So to be a vegetarian or to not be a vegetarian, that is not the question. The question is how we approach it, how we nourish our body and mind, how we nourish each other, and then together that awareness becomes a lot stronger. So dear community, it is now 12:13, and we are very grateful for your questions. We are so grateful for you making the time to be here with us, our brothers and sisters. The theme of our retreat is peace in oneself and peace in the world. And really in your questions, it reflects your deep aspiration to touch peace in yourself and also to bring peace in the world. And I just remember one very clear teaching Thầy said is that Dục an tất an. If you want peace, then there is peace. If you want it so badly, if you want it deeply in your heart, that will be the guiding principle. That will be the right intention. And it helps to guide us, first of all, as an individual with our own thoughts, speech, and bodily actions. As monks and nuns, we may stay in the monastery. Actually, we travel a lot. We do not stay in one place, but we learn to take care of our own thoughts, speech, and bodily actions, and we provide that environment for one another to do so. And when you come, we transmit the teaching, we transmit the practice, but we also transmit our own energy, our own way of life. And when you go out there, each one of you, I'm sure, affects at least 100 people or 1,000 people, or some of us, in our capacity through our profession, we affect thousands and hundreds of thousands. So peace in oneself, peace in the world, it always comes back to that. Do not, for me as a monastic, I learned to let go of my grandiose ambitions to change the world by exerting effort outward. I have met peacemakers who are not at all peaceful. They are very angry, and they refuse to be in their own country because they cannot tolerate the views and what's happening. But for us to be able to stay with our own frustration and anger towards our own life, towards ourselves, to be able to stay in the community, that is making a big difference, and the practice will guide us together as a whole community. So with that, let us come back to our beautiful, stable posture. This is non-action that is very powerful, coming back to being stable, being calm, being peaceful, being spacious, being able to embrace all that is, not rejecting anything, not grasping or holding on to anything. Enjoying our breathing, being our own breathing, being peace.